Thank you, Julie. Next on our agenda is the attendance zones for the elementary.
I move that we postpone consideration of the superintendent recommendation for attendance areas 1 and 2 to a future board work session to be held on a day prior to the second board meeting in June.
Is there?
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been moved and seconded that we postpone this discussion and have a work session on it. Is there board discussion?
Why do you want a work session and not discussing it at the board table?
I would really like to have a chance for us to really look at...
But you're going to have to stay quiet so that we can have our discussion, or I'll have to ask you to clear the room.
Look more closely at the boundary maps and ask administration questions from us so that we can get that in our heads a little bit better before we come back to the board and really talk about it.
And you can't do that at the board table? You can't ask questions at the board table?
I think
Actually, if I may, Tuette,
Yes,
I think we got the maps on Monday evening.
Correct.
Or somewhere thereabouts, and obviously these are pretty significant changes for the district if in fact we move ahead with consideration of them. I don't think it's too unfair to ask that we have more than a day and a half to consider them if we are going to vote on something this impactful for the district.
That wasn't my question, because I would not be comfortable voting on these given the fact that we've had less than 24 hours to view them, digest them, and or talk to the community about them. My question, Jeff, was why does it need to be done at a work session and not at a full board meeting?
I think, Tuette, that for me, the work session is an intermediate step. Obviously, it will come back to a full board meeting, and so what this will actually do is that we will be discussing it 2 times more in the future.
Right, but our work sessions are not televised. And so when we have issues dealing with transparency and community engagement, and we then
Ask you once to be quiet so that we can have our discussion. If you cannot do that, I will have to clear the room so that we can have our discussion. Thank you.
I would think we could have it videotaped. We had a meeting with the joint municipalities, and it was taped, so I think we could request that.
Well, I think it would be, if we're going to do this in a work session, then we should do it at the work session at this table that has microphones and good video cameras, and because when they're at the back of the room, it is very difficult, and it's not as open as what we would like it to be. But I also, I guess I don't understand why we would postpone it that far. What was our timeline that we're looking at then? Then we're looking to have some enactment in this, because as we go farther into the summer, people aren't around. That we have talked years now that summer is not the best time for major decisions like this because people aren't as accessible as they are during the school year.
I guess that my point was just to have it before the next, before the next June 13th meeting, but we could have it
before the second
You said the
meeting in June.
You said the second meeting in June.
But sometime before
second,
then we have work session, so.
I clarify, second Tuesday in June or second meeting in June? Because those are 2 different things.
I believe the motion was the second meeting in June.
Right, so that'd be the end of June.
Yes.
So what's the rationale not to review the recommendation tonight, though? I get that maybe you don't want to vote tonight. I get maybe we want a work session, but why would we not review the recommendation tonight?
I think for me it's a matter of having more time to digest it.
But all we do is get a presentation tonight, so.
It doesn't preclude us from asking our initial gut questions. We can do both. It's not an either-or proposition that we have to make.
It's on the agenda. I'm ready to go. Whether we vote is a different question. I'd like to get a review tonight.
So it's been moved and seconded that this discussion be postponed to a board work session that will be held sometime before the second meeting in June. Is there any further discussion on this? Are you ready to vote? So what we're voting on is whether or not to postpone this and have a work session. I think we're ready to vote, Kim.
Fields.
No.
Holscher.
Aye.
Kirschling.
Aye.
Lynch.
No.
McGinnis.
Aye.
Swayze.
Aye.
DeRue.
No.
Motion carries.
Okay, so I will send out information to try and find a time when we can have a work session on this, and then after that work session, it will come back before the board again. In light of that, I'm sorry, Twit?
I just have to get this out there, but we just basically shut down an entire room of community comment. And I find that to be absolutely deplorable on our end of things. When we are trying to do something, when we
This
are
is the
trying
third
to do
time.
something so impactful in our district, not only when it comes to redistricting, but when it comes to building facilities, when it comes to educating our children, and then we shut down the people that are supposed to be supporting our district and that we're going to be going to for money. This is absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe we just did this.
I have a different view of that. I think that, this will...
Sally?
Yes, go ahead.
There's been a vote already, so let's out of order, just move on to the next item.
So what?
There's already been a vote. There's no longer any discussion of the item. And for what
Okay.
it's worth, we haven't shut down discussion. We've created more opportunities for discussion, more opportunities for consideration. Anybody that's there that wants to speak, be free to speak at any future board meeting when it's discussed.
Correct.
So my request is
That's
to
what I
move
was...
on to the next board item.
That's what I was about to say, is that, it will come before the board again. You will have an opportunity to speak before the full board before that time. You will have an opportunity to continue emailing and speaking in person and calling board members because we are interested in your input. We're just not ready to discuss this right now. The next item on